It's 7:49. This is West Virginia Morning. I'm Chuck Anzelevich. In some state school districts, a complex financial web has administrators wearing multiple hats throughout the day.
In the smaller school districts, you have an individual who may be the child nutrition director, may be a halftime attendance officer, and may be overseeing transportation.
That story and more coming up on this West Virginia Morning. Support for West Virginia Morning is provided by Hope Gas, committed to the growth and development of West Virginia to strengthen the community. Information at wvisforhope.com. Just in time for yesterday's severe thunderstorms rolling across much of southern half of West Virginia, members of the Joint Legislative Committee on Flooding heard about changes coming to the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Maria Young reports.
With parts of the state still recovering from massive flooding and storms, lawmakers were eager to hear about the FEMA Review Council's recommended changes. They include streamlining assistance programs, slashing administrative overhead, speeding reimbursements, and focusing on individual preparedness and state leadership, said Matt Blackwood, director of the West Virginia Emergency Management Division.
They really are stressing the increased role of the states in all phases of emergency management. So really kind of taking the federal role back a step or two.
Blackwood said his division is researching how other states are adjusting to the changes to identify best practices for West Virginia. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Maria Young in Charleston.
Lawmakers continue to keep a close eye on school discipline after years of new legislation. Chris Schulz has more.
School disciplinary data has remained largely consistent according to an annual report presented to the Legislative Oversight Commission on Education Accountability. Drew McClanahan, Legislative and Policy Officer for the West Virginia Department of Education, noted that despite being a small percentage of the overall student population, students facing extreme adversity outside the classroom were overrepresented in the data. 80% of homeless students were cited for disciplinary issues last year.
Foster care students and the concerns and the dire straits maybe that they're going through, I think it certainly begs the question of what might a student be going through that then relates to the behavior that they have inside of a classroom.
Of the 474 students that were expelled from West Virginia's public schools, 75% were categorized as having low socioeconomic status. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Chris Schulz in Morgantown.
A new report says West Virginia is facing a crisis, with most counties qualifying as legal deserts. Eric Douglas has more.
Last year, the Supreme Court of Appeals of West Virginia tasked a group with finding practical solutions to ensure there are enough attorneys to provide representation to the citizens who need it. According to a press release, demand for court-appointed legal work has risen sharply over the last decade, but there aren't enough attorneys to fill the need. Chief Justice Haley Bunn said the problem is expected to increase.
I took a double take when I read the number that says in the next 5 years, approximately 25% of the currently active attorneys intend to retire. So I think anything we can do to encourage young lawyers to stay here and practice here, we should try to do.
Visit our website at wvpublic.org for more information on the report. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, this is Eric Douglas in Charleston.
You're listening to West Virginia Morning on West Virginia Public Broadcasting. It's 7:53. There is a flood watch in effect for most of West Virginia this morning as a result of the heavy rains that we experienced yesterday. Today, it's going to be mostly cloudy and humid with a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Highs will be in the upper 70s and 80s. Tonight, cloudy with a slight chance of rain. Lows in the mid-60s to the low 70s. And tomorrow, the unsettled weather will continue. It's going to be mostly cloudy and humid with a chance of showers and thunderstorms. Highs will be in the 80s. And for Friday, variable cloudiness with a chance of rain. Highs in the upper 70s to the mid-80s. As As lawmakers and educational leaders across West Virginia take a hard look at school finances, administrative staff that work outside the classroom have come under increasing scrutiny. But Uriah Cummings, the school financial operations officer for the West Virginia Department of Education, says administrators manage an increasingly complicated educational landscape. He spoke with reporter Chris Schulz about their necessary role in schools.
What are the administrative requirements to have a functioning school district?
Whether you're an 800 student district or a 20-some thousand student school district, you at a minimum have to have a superintendent as well as a treasurer, CSBO. Those are interchangeable terms in the state of West Virginia. So those are two central office administrators that every single school district is required to have in state code. There's also an attendance director in which the county schools are required in state code to have at least a half-time attendance director. I've been told by our child nutrition folks here that there is a requirement that there be a level of service hours set forth by an administrator to deal directly with child nutrition within the school district. Those would be the required positions that exist. Beyond that, I feel like anybody can say it's necessary to at least have some sort of governance over the transportation of students, which is a key aspect of the school district, the maintenance of facilities, and making sure those facilities are safe for students to be able to learn and be engaged in. And then the instructional aspects, and some of those become more robust the more students that you have. You have federal programs that have to be overseen, whether it be special education, title programs, and then just the general instruction of students. Those are all aspects and areas in which the largest of our school districts have specialized individuals who are experts in each of those fields. But again, in the smaller school districts, that's when the situation becomes you have an individual who may be the child nutrition director, may be a half-time attendance officer or attendance director, and may be overseeing transportation.
The CSBO, that county treasurer position or district treasurer position, is that one of the ones that is required by state law but not factored into the school finance formula?
So the school funding formula only provides funding for professional educators on the professional side of things. On the service personnel side of things, they provide funding for all service personnel positions to an extent, and it's all driven by enrollment. The positions, the ratios that exist on the professional side were not built to include non-professional educators within that formula. So the treasurer position is not funded. The child nutrition director is not funded. Transportation and maintenance director positions are not funded under the funding formula. And if a county wishes to employ those positions, again, treasurer positions mandated, but if they choose to employ full-time these other positions, which are an absolute necessity in operating in a school system, they're doing so out of local dollars.
What amount of the average district's budget actually goes to these administrative costs compared to the entire budget?
I started looking at these numbers as a request from the West Virginia legislature. Members of the legislature just made claims that county board central offices were too robust, that there was too much spending going on there. But in comparison to the total budget in 2025 across the state, the average total salaries and benefits for central office administrators was 2.47% of the overall total current expenditures. If you want to put broad numbers behind it, we're talking $4.1 billion of expenditures in 2025, and $101 million approximately of those were for central office administrator salaries and benefits. And that percentage is fairly fluid throughout the state. It fluctuates somewhat, again, in these smaller school districts where the overhead is heightened in those school districts. So, of course, the percentage is going to increase in those.
That was Uriah Cummings speaking with Chris Schulz about the role of administrators in schools. You can read a longer version of this interview at our website, wvpublic.org. West Virginia Morning is a production of West Virginia Public Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Support for our news bureaus comes from Shepherd University and the Marshall University School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Maria Young produced today's show. Listen to West Virginia Morning weekdays at 7:49 on WVPB Radio or subscribe to the podcast and never miss an episode.